My name is Ernie, and I am 47 years old. Since I got married, I have been taking care of my husband, who had never done chores as a housewife. I met John, who was turning 50 this year, at the hospital I worked. It was a common story, our nurse-patient relationship. When his discharge was announced, he asked me out. He was good-looking and smoking and knew how to treat a woman. I was still naive back then and immediately fell for him. We had smooth sailing into the marriage afterward. Fortunately, we weren't blessed with children, and our conversations diminished later in the marriage. But we still went out for special dinners to celebrate birthdays and anniversaries. We weren't lovey-dovey, but an ordinarily middle-aged couple.
Again, I sighed disapprovingly in the kitchen.
John had been coming home late these few months. He often went to work on weekends too, so our very existing couple time was becoming non-existent. I stared at an empty notification on my phone. He looked tech-savvy, but he was actually lagging behind and used a senior phone, which of course had messaging apps, email, and call functions. He didn't even have a Nokia before, but he willingly decided to get a smartphone, saying it must have been inconvenient for me. He wanted to master the phone, so he was training himself even in the bathroom. But for the first 6 months, considering that was a waste of the phone if he didn't use it for the purpose. Not hearing from him didn't mean I could go ahead and finish my dinner. On the other hand, if I prepared food, I already had dinner. It was a dilemma.
Yeah, where's my dinner?
One day, I got into a car to go shopping. It was normally used as John's private property, which he took to work on weekdays and sometimes on weekends, so I rarely had a chance to drive it. He was usually at home that day. While he was still sleeping, I planned to drive to a supermarket that was having a big sale far out of town.
Oh, what the heck? Cafe Kitty and Sunrise Aquarium. Wait a minute, I've never been to those places. Moreover, it had been a month since I was in the car last time.
I felt a cold sweat running down my spine. When I found many other histories that didn't sound work-related, I breathed in deep to calm myself down. I took a picture of the screen with my trembling hands. It was 8 a.m. John had come back wasted from a business entertainment at around 1 a.m. He was still in his deep slumber, snoring away. It was the only chance. I liked watching crime dramas, and my favorite characters were crime scene investigators. I pretended to be one and bent over to check under the seats and the trash meticulously. I found a long string of curly brown hair and a tiny gold earring in a crack in the seat.
Yes, secured. Not my hair?
I kept my hair short, which was easier to take care of, and John and I didn't have our ears pierced. I felt too anxious to drive, so I canceled shopping. Once I returned inside the house, I started cooking like nothing ever happened. Sections, it became years since I became a housewife. I normally prepared 2 types of breakfast, ironed John's shirts and handkerchief, polished his leather shoes every night, and cooked a healthy dinner and so on. I've mastered everything he wished me to do, yet he betrayed me. I was humiliated and didn't want to believe it.
Morning, which one would you like? A smoothie bowl or eggs and bacon?
I had too much to drink last night. so I will have a smoothie bowl.
I left the newspaper on the dining table.
I served breakfast in front of him, who was reading the papers with the TV's noise in the background. I go through the trouble of preparing 2 different meals. What a nice wife I am.
Han, can I borrow the car today? I want to go to a supermarket out of town for the big sale.
Are you sure you haven't driven for a long time?
I'll be fine. I'll use the navigation.
I don't trust you. I'll go instead.
I smiled at him, who spoke cautiously as if he was choosing the right words.
Let's go together then.
Go, Cal. Clean the car after I finish here. Get ready. You get ready?
He folded the papers haphazardly and gulped his breakfast in a rush. He was still wearing his nightrobe when I saw him run out of the house. I waited for the front door to close, and then I put the hair and piercing in a Ziploc bag with the date and time and hid in the back of the cupboard. I went out with John for the first time in months that day. The car was vacuumed and there wasn't a single speck of dust inside. When I started the navigation, the history had been deleted. I thought to myself that I would let it go this time for not having enough evidence, but there wasn't going to be a second time. I glared at John, who was strangely nice to me in my mind. But things were peaceful for the next few weeks until my birthday. It was when the unexpected happened. Aunt was going to get off of work early, and we were supposed to have dinner together. I booked a French restaurant in the mall at 8:30 tonight. Don't be late. I reminded him while preparing breakfast, but he gave me a half-hearted groan. Maybe he didn't get enough sleep from coming home late again last night. Since the shopping day, he must have reflected on himself because he started letting me know when he was going to be late. Thanks to that, I stopped having a dilemma about his dinner, but the lateness remained the same. It made me concerned about his health from overwork. I dressed up for the occasion and went out to the restaurant at night. It was located about 15 minutes by taxi and was at a quiet corner on the upper floor of the mall. I was seated in the back at the large window looking out to the parking lot. I texted John and then ordered an aperitif. He didn't reply to my text. After 30 minutes of waiting, I finally called him.
Yo, what's up?
Hey, where are you? I texted that I was waiting for you at the restaurant.
Oh yeah, my bad. I'm slammed at work and can't make it.
What? You always get off on time for special occasions. You could have let me know earlier if you couldn't make it.
TSK. I didn't have time to do that. I'm working, unlike you, who's at home doing whatever you like. Anyway, I can't leave tonight. Cancel the dinner, got a buy.
Wait a minute. When I was about to hold him back, he had already hung up on me. Adultery, it wasn't any day, but my birthday. As I gave in, I called my waiter to explain the mishap and told him that I would pay for the pre-booked course. He kindly suggested having dinner alone and just paying for myself. As I contemplated, my phone pinged with a text from John.
Do you cancel?
I was upset with the one-line text that lacked an apology. I then turned to the waiter and said, "I will take up on your suggestion, please."
She replied, "Sure, I'll take up on your suggestion, please."
Even if I went back home now, there was nothing to eat. Since it was a hump day, the restaurant was only half full. I decided to enjoy my birthday French dinner alone and quiet. I even planned to post my complaints and pictures on social media. I've been just looking through it almost every day, but that's how it was supposed to be used. John had no interest or knowledge in social media, and it was frustrating sometimes, but I was glad then he was not good at it in general. I enjoyed a beautiful course, tasting every bite and swallowing down my frustration. I stared out of the window with tipsy eyes, just looking at the cars in the parking. Then I saw a familiar one among them, John's car. A stranger walked toward it. I was totally stunned by what my eyes saw in the next few seconds. A casual and elegantly dressed young woman with a matched supermarket eco bag and long curly hair got in the car so naturally. The alcohol in me evaporated in a second. I scurried to record on my phone, but it was too late. The car drove away in the opposite direction from our home. There was a strip of bars and an old bowling alley in that direction, and also a motel. My anger started to simmer. It was a moment that turned what had been vague to clear. My phone got a ping, but John wrote, "I'll be back in 2 hours. No need for dinner?" But to it was a familiar message, but since I caught the scene, it just angered me even more. Habitual. I should have made him sorry the other day. It was my fault for giving him the benefit of the doubt. I quickly paid my bill and got in a taxi to home. I tried to call John several times, but he never picked up. I texted him to come home soon. And as soon as I got back in the house, I threw my phone on the sofa. I waited for a while for him.
He said, "Hey, I'm sorry to miss the dinner. This is for you. This is for you."
Thick inside the big bag, there was a piece of cake with a discounted price tag. And if it was a normal time, I could have laughed, but I was fuming instead.
I asked, "What were you doing?"
He replied, "I was working."
I asked, "What kind of work is picking up a young girl and driving away?"
He replied, "What?"
I threw back the bag with a cake at him. I went to grab the Ziploc from the cupboard and then shoved it into him. I went to grab the Ziploc from the cupboard and then shoved it into him. "I found these in your car. You're cheating on me. I want a divorce."
Here, this is...
He was flustered and I was determined to get to the truth, but I was astounded by what he had said next. And shouted at me so loud.
I flinched, to which he grinned as if to say he won.
"I guess Caesar from the colleague I gave a ride to once. What I'm asking is, if you have evidence that I am having an affair."
I saw unusual histories on your car navigation. I took a picture of it. Absence, and I saw you tonight. I only canceled your part and had my dinner there. I saw from the window your car picking up a woman in the parking lot.
As you delivered that alongside. What you saw on the navigation is round when I was looking for a place to take you, and a car you saw wasn't mine tonight.
Yes, it was.
Show me your proof. If you insist, you must have a picture.
No.
The moment I hesitated, he punched the wall.
You get, hysterical and accuse me of cheating when I'm so tired from work, and even disregard me for doing the least I can do. Like, how can you be like, without concrete evidence? You should be ashamed of yourself.
But his outburst left me speechless. Seeing me stunned, he sat back on the sofa as if he was done with it.
I'm not giving you a divorce. I want to take a bath, Get to it now. You better not forget to polish my shoes too.
Sign.
You see, I knew it was pointless to argue with him. As soon as I turned my back to him, I heard his chuckles. The 20 years we had built together were falling apart. At the same time, my feelings for John were freezing. I could only feel my anger and frustration. I carried out the tasks he had demanded in silence, and then, when he had fallen asleep, I packed basic things, took a spare key to the car, and left the house. As it was dawn when I got to my parents' house, I explained my situation to them, who welcomed me back without a question.
Yeah, where are you? You're the worst wife, just taking off like that. It wouldn't have happened if you weren't having an affair. Drop it. I'm not divorcing you. Come back now. You're supposed to take care of me for the rest of your life.
Up something in me exploded. I was just a useful servant to him.
A servant caught the affair, but she wasn't supposed to meddle with it. If he didn't want to come out clean, then I had a plan. I was going to make him regret not owning up to his responsibility. Okay, I will get a lawyer. You will hear from him soon. Atin Atakeler hung up before he could say anything. I wasn't gonna let him get away with it easily at this point. It made no sense to not demand alimony for adultery. I squeezed my phone tightly and called an office of a private detective. The day of the arbitration arrived a few weeks later. Of course, I had prepared well with my lawyer for this. John, on the other hand, was going to present himself. It was a great turn of the event for me. He must have thought that he could easily pressure me to submit to him like the other day, but I wasn't going to let that happen. I knew how well-spoken he was than anyone else. The arbitrator wasn't supposed to be influenced, but who knew if John wasn't going to try? I gladly accepted to face him. He showed up looking quite disheveled at the meeting. His shirt and pants were wrinkled and shoes were unpolished. It seems his mistress wasn't good at chores as I expected. The second he noticed me, he called out my name desperately and blabbered his love to me. Living alone must have gotten to his head. It was such a performance of his life.
The arbitrator was astounded and watched him for a little while. When I knocked her with a cough, she finally silenced John. She asked me to present first, but it was John who opened his mouth.
Sir, I declare my love and my faithfulness to you. I've never cheated on you. I am in love with you. And we always celebrated our anniversary over a special dinner.
John's tearful plea was mixed with fact, which made it sound somewhat realistic. I was quite annoyed. When the arbitrator finished with John, she turned to me. Now, can you please present your case? There was untruth in John's claim, his adultery. I had done the best I could to take care of him. His adultery is a betrayal. I asked for a divorce, that's all. He really wanted to see the evidence. I was ready to give them to him. Firstly, please take a look at this. This is a picture of the car navigation histories that gave me suspicion in the first place. It's a print out of the picture. I also found a strand of hair and a piercing in the car on the same day. And I also found a strand of hair and a piercing in the car on the same day. And John smirked at the evidence as the arbitrator wasn't looking at him.
I opened my PC and faced the screen toward the arbitrator and John. This is a social media account of John's mistress. Huh, it seems like he has hidden his marital status from her, so she has been posting every outing with him. John's smirk disappeared. The arbitrator stretched her arms toward my PC. May I, sure please?
The arbitrator scrolled the page as she inspected the post. It was just a lucky guess. I realized that most of the car navigation histories were to photogenic spots. I thought there might be pictures of John and his mistress in the background, and searched social media with a little hope. I didn't have the gut to contact a private detective at that point. I was just looking for any proof.
As I expected, there was a large amount of data, and I finally found an account after consuming a lot of spare time I had as a housewife. There was a post with a comment. I went for a drive with my boyfriend. I'm sad to lose my piercing though. She considerably uploaded a picture of the same piercing I had found in the car. The owner of the account had the same style of hair and the same coat she wore when I first saw her. There were other contents that fit perfectly with the histories of car navigation and some images with a figure of John without the face. I was certain it was his mistress. Too bad I already had hired a detective at this point. Well, the moment I found this, I immediately informed him. The arbitrator looked at John coldly. This is not an affair. It's strictly a business. It's a relationship on my side. She's the one misunderstood the fact. I ignored his excuses and produced more evidence. Dozens of pictures that came from my detective were laid out on the table. John didn't need to excuse himself anymore after I left, so he seemed to take the opportunity to spread his wings. I heard it was so easy to take pictures of him, such as going into a motel room, visiting his mistress at her house, and taking her into our home. Most of all, there was one picture that caught my eye. Protagonists. I mumbled woof and showed the image. A 50-year-old middle-aged man with a collar and leash was ecstatically worked by a young woman in a park. The arbitrator clearly showed her disgust. Every time John rushed to grab the nighttime walk photo. I retrieved another one taken from various angles.
Woof woof! Stop it! These are not for your entertainment. And now here's another one? If I may comment, you shouldn't use the car as a motel room.
Well, no. Wait. Shell-shocked, he muttered some swear words and hung his head in despair. A poor puppy.
Later, I showed the result of a lab test. I gave the spare key to my detective and had him swap the seats in the car. As expected, there were bodily fluids that validated his adultery. Did you enjoy evidence? From then on, the arbitration proceeded in a decent manner. In addition to the division of property, it was decided that I was also to receive a hefty alimony payment for his betrayal. A long-standing marriage. I expected that. Well, if she knew the truth, she wouldn't have posted on social media. But that didn't change the fact that she tried to steal a guy from another woman.
We're done here.
That's your helpistria. What are you talking about? She's leaving you.
So it's that, Dowsum. I'll let you have a divorce. Even after paying you all of that, I still got house. I'll marry my young and pretty girlfriend. We'll live a modest life, and she will slowly but surely learn to take care of the house.
But when she posts about the relationship on social media, it's obvious that she's dating you without knowing you're married. Knowing her boyfriend is married.
People close to her also found out, and it became too uncomfortable to stay at work anymore. No one knew where she moved to, but her previous apartment suddenly became empty. John couldn't come up with a sum for alimony spousal support, so he sold the house and moved to a smaller apartment. As a result of never helping with housework, his life became disheveled, his appearance became unkempt, and the smell of garbage leaked out of his apartment. As a result, his colleagues stayed away from him, and his bosses were disgusted that he was demoted and moved to a dark corner of the office. From what I had heard, it sounded like he'd be working even after his retirement. As for me, I managed to find a job in a small hospital near my parents' house. Having 20 years of blank on the job is huge. Although I struggle with the latest equipment, I'm blessed with kind colleagues and I'm living a fulfilling life. The alimony was used to renovate my parents' house for their future. I'm supposed to inherit it anyway. It's an old single-story house, but my parents were overjoyed when the interior was redecorated and it became cozy. And the cost of the private investigation had reduced my savings, but I don't regret it. I can still work hard and make money again. I want to buy a car for the convenience of commuting and shopping when I save up enough money. Of course, if I have a boyfriend in the future, I won't use the car for anything other than its intended purpose.